When I sold Cottage Link Rental Management in 2022, we were running at 85% direct bookings. That didn't happen by accident. We'd been at it for 20 years, booking direct long before Airbnb was even a concept. For most property managers, though, direct booking remains one of the hardest things to build. Guests arrive through the OTAs, they stay, they leave, and you're left with almost nothing you can use to bring them back. That's the gap today's sponsor, Stayfi, is designed to close. And I'll be telling you more about them later in the episode. This is the Vacation Rental Success Podcast, keeping you up to date with news, views, information and resources on this rapidly changing short-term rental business. I'm your host, Heather Bayer, and with 25 years of experience in this industry, I'm making sure you know what's hot, what's not, what's new, and what will help make your business a success. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Vacation Rental Success Podcast. This is your host, Heather Bayer, and as ever, I'm super excited to be back with you once again. So when I'm thinking about what I'm going to talk about on the podcast, themes for episodes, I often go to LinkedIn and something will jump out at me and I'll think, yes, this is a great topic. And that's exactly how today's conversation started. A few days ago, Gil Chan, and if you listen to the podcast, I interviewed Gil a week or two ago, and he is just such an interesting voice in this industry. So I watch out for his posts, and he wrote a post recently about hyperlocal property management. And my guest today is someone I've known for the better part of 2 decades, and he left a comment in the reply that really stuck with me. He said, hyperlocal isn't just about local market knowledge, it's about owner relationships. And he thinks that piece is increasingly getting forgotten. For the 20 years I operated in this industry, I would say it was hyperlocal. I operated in an area that I knew a lot about, my team knew a lot about, we were located in that area. We talked to owners and we talked to guests and we understood their unique needs and wants. So I'm guessing that's what hyperlocal means. So I want to explore that. So that comment that was made last week just sent me down a rabbit hole. And I started reading about this wave of consolidation that's moving through our industry. And I'm sure we've been saying this for years. But it left me with a really genuine question. Everyone seems to be reaching for the word hyperlocal right now, but very few people seem able to say what it actually means or requires, or why the companies that do it well tend to be the ones rooted in a single place rather than those spread across a map. So my guest today is Richard Vaughton. He's a short-term rental consultant with close to 30 years in this business. He's got a career built on scaling companies and selling them, and a healthy skepticism of anyone who mistakes positioning for practice. So this is more of a fireside chat. I'm not sure what this fireside chat thing means, but there's no scripted interview here. So you get what Richard gives, really. So let's get into it. I am so happy and delighted to have with me today Richard Vaughton. Richard, welcome. It's been 11 years. It's been 11 years since we did.
I should laugh about this. We have ships that pass in the night at conferences every now and then. But when you said it's 11 years, I almost had a heart attack because I know we've both been doing this since we were born. But actually not having a conversation for 11 years and we're still both smiling at each other. It's got to be a good thing, hasn't it?
It was amazing because I was going back over the people I'd talked to when we started the podcast, which was 2014, I think, and trying to find all those people that were still in the industry. And there aren't that many, actually.
Oh, no. Really?
Maybe they've aged out of it, and I'm thinking that's probably me next. But there are those
I just find it incredibly hard to get out of this. It's almost like putting one of those rats in a maze, saying, find your way out of this industry if you can. And you always end up back at the middle of it.
I've been thinking about that and thinking with all this AI stuff I'm doing now, I'd like to do it more locally. I'd like to go into a local business, just get in my car, go down the road, go into the business and say, okay, I'm here to help you with your AI adoption, which is what I do a lot of now. And I thought that would be really cool. So I joined the local chamber 6 months ago and I haven't done a thing because there's too much going on in this industry that I'm having fun with.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, but like you don't have a management company anymore. We'll touch on that in a minute because I do think I've got one last management company in me. And that is because of what I do, a bit like you, I'm talking to people. I got management clients, I got tech clients, and the various things they're doing. Generally speaking, it's about growth, it's profitability, man management, culture, all those sorts of things. And everybody I speak to still, even though they might not vocalize it, actually have a vision of where they want to be at some point in the future. And it invariably means exiting business. And it's amazing how many people don't actually put in place all guardrails and operational management and financial management and everything else in place before they get to that point. The world is awash with companies right now who have somewhere between 50 and 100 properties probably, who are now thinking, because of AI and everything I'm talking about, thinking, oh boy, what do I do? Do I grow? Because I'm going to need AI. I'm going to need more education. I've got to use the tools. I'm going to have to face up to the OTA, increasing dominance. The salaries have gone up, legislation, sorry. Or do I sell? And of course, you can't sell unless it's worth something. So there's so many moving parts in here. It's fun, but it's quite difficult to manage.
It amazes me. You say you've got another management company in you, perhaps. I left 4 years ago and just never looked back. Never, ever again. And
yeah, I think there is another management company in me, but I think it has to be a different business model because as your Chamber of Commerce, you walked into a room where AI is now part of the fabric of our existence everywhere we look, and there's lots of opportunities to build a business in a slightly different framework. That can actually work. You've got tomorrow, haven't you, on AR with Graham Donoghue and Steve Schwab?
Yeah, exactly.
That's almost the question. You should say, how would you reframe your business compared to how it's been framed in the past? Because I do think there is an opportunity here to do it one more time, Heather.
Well, that's a good segue into really coming back and saying, Richard Vaughton, who are you? Give us the potted history.
How far back do you want me to go? Do you want to go back way into the last century?
Certainly 30 years ago.
Okay, potted history. I'm a microbiologist. Okay, so that fits with short-term rentals, like a hand in a glove, doesn't it? And after I started, I'll praise you that I did a lot of microbiology, and then I ended up starting and running and building a biomedical diagnostic supply company. It's distributed to 40 countries worldwide, and it became part of a group, and we went public in the year 2000. So with a lot of history there. Built service facilities, built manufacturing facility in India, did a lot of traveling, a lot of sales and marketing. And if anybody wants to know anything about cryopods or vertical light photometry, go and ask me. And I think this is a good reflection of short-term rental businesses. We went public in 2000 and we invested a bit of money in buying properties, of course, like everybody does. And then we discovered that residential properties were not as profitable as short-term rental properties. So I and my wife, Sue, who you know, we bought some short-term rental properties. She did all what she's really good at. She renovated them. She styled them. She did all the photography because she's pressed with over, and she did all the bookings and guest liaison. Well, I still had a small public company to operate. So with that transitioned, in the moment of peak, I resigned from this public company because I don't do large corporate entities very well. by that time, we were in full flow, really, and started an Italian business as well, which grew from no properties to about 800 by the time we actually exited it 10 years later. And the reason it was Italy is because we used to live in Italy. And I used to work in Switzerland, so Lake Como. So it was fantastic. But the entrepreneurs that we are, we decided it'd be a really good idea to start a short-term rental company where I live here in Torquay, which is a coastal Victorian ex-seaside town. At the same time, and we grew to about 120, 130 properties, which we also exited 10 years later at the same time. And in the middle of all that, 2 years before we exited, I thought it'd be a really good idea to start a software business providing PMS, distribution, websites to the industry. We did crowdfunding for $500,000. We built the most amazing tech stack. Our best month was January 2020, and our worst month was February 2020. So we sold that tech stack in 2023. Rather than fight with Guesty and Pushaway and everybody else who had hundreds of millions invested in them. And that was a good thing to do personally, because it would have been very difficult to actually penetrate that market as it is now for most companies. And in the middle of all that, I took a contract with Stay Alfred as VP of Europe to build a business by buying and selling companies. And we got murdered in COVID then as well. 350 staff, multiple companies being acquired. And I went to the wall as well. So somehow they fell into helping companies avoid those rabbit holes and bear traps that I'd experienced. I'm a board advisor to tech businesses. Boom. And I work with some management companies. I speak at conferences. I write an awful lot of stuff online. I try to be as brutally honest as I can. Doesn't always do me favors. And in my spare time, I build decks. Yeah, that's a real pot in history over a very long period of time. But there's been a lot of fun in that, as well as all the stress that actually comes with a owner guest business. It's seldom you have two human parts buying and selling as part of a business. They're generally product based and they're replicatable and mass produced. This is also what people do. I will say one thing I thought really interesting about all this, and it's reflective of the position now with OTAs, actually. Part of the reason I resigned from biomedical diagnostic, part of the fact I didn't do corporate public company business very well, because I did like doing my own thing, is that I had to get rid of my sales force because large American corporations had decided they could be the door entry to all the establishments you would sell this equipment or software or diagnostics to. So you couldn't actually sell to them. You had to go through very large catalogs or online catalogs, and they would mark it up by 15% and stop you going through the door unless you complied with their rules. Got into short-term rentals in 2008. Same thing happened again. We ended up with HomeAway and then Airbnb and everybody else. So guess what? American corporations dominate the exposure and marketing space. So I was trying to add into the fire in that.
I just love the story of transitioning company to company and direction to direction. But I ask this question of everybody who comes on the podcast: how did you get into this? And I think your story is great. I love the fact you're in Italy. You know how much I love Como and spent so much time there as a kid and then as a young parent taking my kids there. And yes, we've always had that in common. And yeah, a lot we have in common. And I think we discovered this it was the late 1990s when we first met. And Layma, I mentioned this a couple of times recently, because I'm doing the senior thing of reflecting on the past way too much.
You're not thinking of Toronto, are you?
No, I'm talking about Lay My Hat.
Oh, Lord, Lay My Hat, yes. I went and looked at the domain name recently to see if I could acquire it. That's for historical purposes. It's still there.
It's still there, yeah.
And that was the place we all went to gather information and make noise. But even then, it was very anti-manager. It was still very much, we only support the owners. I'm going to say it like the RBO, vacation rental by owner. Owners direct. We only deal with owners. That didn't last very long, did it?
Yeah, interesting stuff. And that's where I met you. I met Andy McNulty.
Oh, wow. Yeah, another one.
John Hobson. I don't know if you remember John Hobson. He had several vacation rentals in the Lake District, and he was very active on that forum. I'm still in touch with him. He hasn't had a vacation rental in years, but we still chat backwards and forwards on Facebook.
Yeah, I don't know him at all, actually. I think it's fair to say, a bit like you, a lot of those people have just drifted away from the street. And then there are notable people who have actively made an exit. So Steve Davis from Aperto just disappeared one night. And they've made that. I actually quite admire those people who can go, that's it. I've done it. I didn't feel trapped. So this one, I'm not saying I feel trapped, but too many moving parts to actually stop moving.
That's exactly it. So I want to dig into something with you, Richard, because
you're free.
I find a lot of the things I want to talk about on LinkedIn, reading through, and somebody will say something and I think, oh gosh, that's an interesting article. Who am I going to talk to about it? So Gil Chan, who you know, did a post, it's going to be a couple of weeks ago now, and he was talking about view stay vacations and 4,500 homes. And he said in his post, the thing that caught my attention, their positioning as hyperlocal, personalized, hospitality driven. But the structure is 4,500 homes across 8 states, 300 plus employees, centralized revenue management, dynamic pricing. Just reminded me of something.
Yeah, it probably reminded you of Picasso.
It did. And then now they're marketing through Casago. So through that franchise network. You responded to that LinkedIn post and you said, Gil, but the words hyperlocal also focuses attention on owner management and relationships. And then the thing that struck out at me, you said increasingly forgotten.
Yeah, I'm trying to go back. Maybe this is an age thing, but actually, I think it's actually true. I could actually, the two gentlemen you actually have on your show tomorrow, okay, I would recommend everybody goes and listens to this.
Yeah, I've got to say that by the time this is published, it's going to be last week. We did it.
Yeah, okay. You should have listened to that one last week, because there'll be a link in there. So I've had a bit of a revelation. Okay, let's call it a revelation over the last 2 or 3 years. So owning a tech business means you spend your entire time trying to figure out A, how to sell it, and B, how to create something that makes people's lives easier and reduces costs, etc., etc. And we are overwhelmed with tech businesses. Okay, they're not all going to survive, that's for sure. But everybody seems to think they can make money out of this. It's a very hard task. So on one side of this, we have lots of tech businesses trying to improve your business performance. AI, I want to call it a culprit, but it can replace an enormous amount of repetitive tasks. I think everybody will accept that. And it will give you business intelligence. So we have all the tech businesses, we now have AI, and the whole focus is around trying to implement that in companies. Bring in a lot of money all of a sudden and say, I've got a really good plan. And the plan is we create a business with 4,000, 5,000, 10,000, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 properties. And what we're going to do is going to centralize all this technology. We're not just going to centralize accounts, maybe revenue management, because even that's difficult at this. We're going to centralize virtually everything. Venture capitalist or private equity company says, so what's going to happen in all the destinations? We're just going to have an account manager. And the account manager will worry about owners and stuff like that. Well, I think it's been proven that's actually really difficult to actually create. Don't get me wrong, something like Sykes Cottages or even Travel Chatter in the UK, they have achieved it to a degree, but increasing, they are keeping local offices and they are keeping staff at those local levels. So why are they doing that? It's quite simple, isn't it? So who's the most important person in the ecosystem? It's not actually the guest, it's the owner. Without that product, you can't sell that product. And unless that product is polished, unless that product is smiling, no one's actually going to want it. Guests are going to come if you have a great product and you have great service and you provide a great experience, and therefore you get great reviews. So you've just said about the reviews not being great quality. There must be a reason for that. There might be, to a degree, a technical limitation on what they've actually done and what they've implemented. But actually, it almost certainly comes down to feet on the ground at a local level, because you and I both know that people will walk down the street in the summer and go, we did this. I love Como. Let's buy an apartment. We did that. And then you got to worry about how it's managed. And what you don't do is you don't head off to some anonymous company in the middle of nowhere and say, can you do this for me? You go local. You look at the local offices, you speak to local people, you ask about local management, want people on the ground. You want to be able to phone some at 2 a.m. in the morning and say, why is my property the colour leak? So I love the words hyperlocal, but it actually has to be embraced as a hyperlocal thing. And
what do you, when you say hyperlocal, what do you actually mean?
You've got to have a presence of substance in that area. You've got to have a reputation in that area. There's no point in having a Marriott, say, in New York and saying I'm opening a Marriott in Torquay where I live, unless it's a globally recognized brand. We don't have any globally recognized brands in this industry. We know brands because we're in the industry, but there is no globally recognized brand in this industry. So you can only go local, and you can only establish that your own local brand presence around where you are, for example. Are you on the sea? Are you in a forest? Are you in the countryside? Are you in the mountains? You've got to breathe that atmosphere into it. And the thing I've become obsessed with is cultures in companies recently. Because you can mechanize as much as you like, but unless your company culture is strong and supported and collaborative and team-based, then it's not going to work very well. Mechanization, the software, the reporting, the administration, those are the rails on which the data and the money runs, etc. But all the rest is still incredibly personal. I don't see any way around that. I will qualify this. We have leisure businesses and we have urban businesses. And the more I speak to leisure businesses, the more I hear this conversation. The more we need better culture, we need better hospitality, we need better experience, more feet on the ground, we need to support it. Urban businesses, I fear, the distributed inventory urban businesses are really beginning to suffer because it's expensive to have a distributed urban business and actually manage it at a distance operationally. And all your bookings come through OTAs. You've lost the game years ago to OTAs for that. And that's probably why the conversation now is about, I can't do this. I need a block. I need to turn it into a bar hotel, essentially. So we have these two different market spaces. The one I like to live in is the leisure one, not the urban one, because that's different. We can't get away from this. You can't mechanize it.
So coming back to it, I know from when I ran my company, we had at one point nearly 200 properties, and I knew every single owner. I knew their kids. I knew their dogs' names. I could meet them in the street and recognize them and take them for a coffee.
Yes.
So having a local property manager doesn't allow for that sort of engagement and relationship. And that's where I feel that it could fall apart.
And it does fall apart. How many times have you encountered a independent individual working for a company a long way away as a representative, and you're in competition with them in terms of acquiring the business? They lose nearly every time because they don't actually have all the local knowledge. They don't have the network. They don't have the experience generally because they're not part of a team. They're part of a very large company who their salaries are mechanized. Their job descriptions are mechanized. Their involvement with the top company never goes to the top. It always goes to middle management. Same as you. It's part of the reason we actually got out of one of them is because I couldn't drink 120 pints of beer on a Saturday with the men who came down because their wives wanted to talk to Sue about addressing some of the problems within the properties. And that's our fault. Because if we'd established the business correctly, we would have employed those people who would have been as good and would have grown into it. And therefore, the company would have been more valuable when we sold it than it probably was at the time, because it would have had those extra elements of success attached to it. So, yeah, it's really nice that your company has 4,500 properties, but there's something inherently wrong with some of this. And you can mechanize, you can automate, you can AI a lot of the stuff in terms of data, reporting, finances, technology, but you cannot replace a person on the ground or people on the ground to build a great business.
Yeah, you and I both know Jane McCaw.
That's right. Yeah.
Jane's Cottages, and I see her everywhere, probably coming through my feed because it's very Ontario-based. But there's Jane out on a dock with the owner and her PR people, and they're doing some massive PR operation with luxury companies in the city, and she's there, front and center. She put her name on the company. You can't do that and not be there.
No, I completely agree. And she sent me a very nice message because we worked together 10 years ago when she first started in terms of trying to avoid making mistakes. And I think she freely admits she made mistakes in the process as well, but she seems to have done absolutely everything right. Great territory, a little bit virgin territory probably, which if you can find it, snaffle it immediately. But you're right. It's all personality there, and it's all touchy-feely experience, hospitality. And she's exited to a degree. So good on her. She's done a fantastic job, I think.
Yeah. Our sponsor, Stayfi, is built on a fairly simple idea. The guest who found you on Airbnb the first time doesn't have to come back through Airbnb the second time, as long as you have their email address and something worth sending them. I could keep explaining that, but it carries a lot more weight from someone who's been doing it in a real business for 4 years. This is Mike Springer, the owner of Book Nola.
Hey, this is Mike Springer, the owner of Book Nola. And in the over 4 years we've been using Stayfi, it's become a foundational piece in our guest marketing and direct booking success. Since implementing Stayfi, we've been able to collect over 18,000 guest emails and seen our direct bookings grow tenfold. In a world where OTAs are clamping down on sharing guest data and hiking platform fees, it's more important than ever to own your relationship with your guests, and that includes owning your guest data. From simplifying guest data collection and curating a branded Wi-Fi experience for our guests, to an easy-to-use dashboard and amazing support, Stayfi is a no-brainer for anyone in the vacation rental space looking to increase their direct bookings.
18,000 email addresses collected from guests who are already walking through the door. What I find most interesting about Stayfi is where those addresses come from. When one person in a booking party logs onto the Wi-Fi, so does everyone else staying in the house, and Stayfi captures all of them, rather than just the name on the reservation. For a group booking, that's 4 or 5 contacts instead of 1, and you never had to ask for a single one of them. You've already done the hard part, getting those guests through the door. Stayfi is about being able to reach them again. Check them out at stayfi.com. I want to move on to AI, of course.
Yes, feel free. Yes.
I did a thing this morning. I don't know if you ever have shower ideas.
Always. Best ideas.
And I was thinking about podcasts because I'm recording 2 today. And I was thinking, gosh, there's always stories that come out of these podcasts. And they get broadcast. People perhaps listen to them once. The reason I thought of that is because Paul Anderson's episode is being released today as we record this. And he told the story at his session at Scale with AI about when he was doing his officer training and leading his troop in the middle of the night in an exercise to a point. And I guess that was the target of it. He had to get them to this particular spot. And as the sun came up, he saw across this field a woman with a carrier bag picking asparagus, or maybe nicking asparagus. And he realized immediately they were in the wrong place. They were in a farmer's field. And the only thing he could think of, because there's all these, she's looking around, there's all these soldiers in camo with rifles. And she's terrified. And he says, "Can I get you a cup of tea? We're just brewing." And it was one of those little cameo stories that comes out of every conversation I have. So my idea was, I need to catalogue all these stories. And so that was my shower idea this morning. So I came out and I thought, I'm going to do this. And within 15 minutes, I had a catalogue of nearly 400 stories from 50 episodes that I've done, just from an idea.
And you use AI to actually extract those?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I just said, this is my idea, what can you do? And Claude said, do you have your transcripts in Google Drive or Descript? And I said, yes, I have it in both. Okay, I'll go and explore both of those, and I'll pull out all these episodes that I think are really interesting, and I'll pull out these stories. Just amazing what came out of that. And then it comes back and says, oh, I've got these 100 or so stories. What do you want me to do with them now? Well, let's create some LinkedIn posts and some blog posts and content. So you're going to start seeing those coming up. And I've completely forgotten why I wanted to come up with that story, but really was about AI.
You sound like ChatGPT now. You've gone on too long about AI and it's lost its track, hasn't it?
Yes, I need to start a new chat.
Yeah, you're asking or talking about AI. I guess it's AI in our particular space. Well,
it really is. It's about how we're using it. Do you think people really know the power of this and what they can do with it? And I think now I recall why I started that with that story was talking with Steve Schwab and remembering a story that he had told about his staff who are using AI more and more now, but giving them the opportunity now they have more time to do something that's really exceptional. So the story was, he said to his staff, okay, this one day, we had a huge amount of people check out yesterday. I want you to phone every owner, every guest, and just say thank you. Nothing more. You're not selling anything. You're just going to say thank you to them for being a guest or for being an owner. And he said, out of that, the gifts started arriving. One really got me. An owner drove down from Phoenix into Mexico to Puerto Penasco with a meal for the team. She set out the meal, she served it, and then she got in her car and drove 4 hours home. All because somebody said thank you to her.
Wow. So that's one of the powers of AI, because you manage to essentially automate a lot of this and provide the gratitude at scale.
That's it. What he says was, we're not going to fire 9 people. We're going to give 9 people the chance to do something exceptional in hospitality instead of the repetitive work.
Yeah. So 3 things, or maybe 4 things. You're not an AI avatar by any chance, though. Yes. So, 3 things. And one's a bit of a gripe to a degree about AI as well. Both my sons are software developers. One's in charge of AI for the entire business. So I get a lot of feedback on AI from a software developer's perspective. Professional software developers who really know what they're doing, actually. So I get a lot of feedback about how to use or what's being used for, the fact that they're all becoming quality control operators as opposed to software coders and various other things. And as part of groups, and I've done a huge amount of vibe coding because I needed to understand how it works. I thought I could create a business overnight and become a billionaire again, which never happened. But what I'm witnessing is so many people are using in the tech space vibe coding as a commercial opportunity for targeting all customers. Okay, we used to get maybe 1 email every hour about a product or a phone call or a LinkedIn, but now getting like 10 every hour. So AI is being used as a powerhouse for sales. Will it work? I just think humans might become slightly overloaded and AI will start wheeling out everything anyway. So you'll have AI versus AI. People are using it an awful lot for that. To be quite honest, it's sometimes quite annoying when they haven't actually done the research as to who you are as well. The other thing is that I must have 15 or 20 pitch decks from AI startup companies. And in this space, everybody thinks there's an opportunity to start a business. And they are invariably communication tools or operational management tools, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They all need connecting to the source of truth, an HTTP server, or this sort of stuff. It's very hard to make money in this business as a tech business. Not only do you have to work your socks off, you have to be incredibly smart and actually generally have funding to market it to actually get over the threshold into profitability. So I admire the people doing it because they're entrepreneurs, but there is a certain challenge that many of them have not faced up to because many of them are not actually professional software developers either. There are some who will succeed. There's no doubt about that. What's been really interesting is we've now got companies who've been for years have been hooked into a PMS, and they've got 12 different categories of additional software connected to them. And now they're removing those because they're not working properly for them, and they're using Claude with connectivity to the PMS or MCP server to create their own independent tools internally. Some of them doing it really well. And provided they maintain them and they continue to develop them and they have a real understanding of what they're doing, it's changing the face of parts of this industry without doubt. So you're going to have those who use it and become more successful. And then you've got the enterprise level companies, your Guesties and your Boom, your Hostaways who have millions and millions of dollars invested, who are actually building incredible systems that actually do all those things that all those companies are actually, from the pitch decks, trying to develop. So again, we've fragmented an entire industry into multiple segments, all trying to make a living out of it. And at what point does it consolidate? What point do we have enough architecture, infrastructure of businesses to be able to run our hospitality at distance? It's changing the face of everything. Seriously, it's being part of Boom. I witnessed the playbooks, I witnessed the developments, the incredible things that are actually coming out, which we launched soon. And it's actually doing some of the things that you and I would love to have been able to do 20 years ago in an automated fashion. So I know you teach ambassadors in companies to do this. Problem is, you and I and all these other people, your AI, SDR stuff you're involved in, we all inhabit this space. When you go to a conference and speak to 20, 30, 40 managers, their headspace is not filled with the same stuff ours is. It's filled with, how do I clean the toilet more efficiently and pay the staff less money and have a better experience and get better reviews? The AI bit is very confusing. What's the difference in AI and agentic AI? What's the difference between a large language model and an MCP? They don't know these things. So you're doing the same as Greg Donahue and Sykes. You're actually helping people educate single members of teams to help the other parts of the teams understand how they can actually use these tools to improve their business. Give them more space, give them more time, let them worry about the business rather than all the operational stuff. So I see that as a really important part of the 150,000 managers worldwide we have in terms of educating probably 90% of right now. Because some are just being sold tools which don't work.
Yeah, you made a great point about, you're talking about the amount of pitch decks you get, people saying, I've got the next best thing. Have you come across, there's an AI for that?
Yeah, you actually gave me the link for that. And that was, I've actually created one for companies who speak to me, a separate one, which I created so I can actually refer to it. And I vibe coded it. I was working on Claude. I used Vercel free hosting, listing and stuff like that. And it's really useful for entrepreneurs to create but that doesn't mean you can create an entirely new business that actually will gain traction.
Exactly. I've had a pitch this week from a young man at university. I've got this great next idea, and I am going to talk to him next week because he's just full of ideas, but having to bring him back to earth a bit and let him know a bit more about what this industry is about. And when I mentioned there's an AI for that, it was just going back to every so often I just look at the numbers there, because I remember when I found that site, there were over 18,000 apps out there. Now I looked at it this morning, there's 51,000.
Incredible. There are people, they come up with a great idea. They'll look at Airbnb and go, oh my word, there's 8 million Airbnbs out there and nobody's using any apps and no one's talking to each other, and I can do something really good and I can put all the information together and I can create a global enterprise overnight. And you'll get a phone call. It isn't most of them. It's sporadic, saying, I've created this. I go, where are you going to get your data from? I'm going to from Airbnb. But no, you won't get it from Airbnb. You'll have to scrape it, but you're not going to get all the basic. Oh, they don't have an API. No. You'll have to go to a PMS. What's a PMS? That's the source of truth of most properties. How do I connect to them? You can either go to something like Calvary and do multiple connections. It'll cost you this much, or go and do it independently. That'll take you a lifetime to do it. I have literally no idea reading the basics of some of these. But there's something really interesting here, Heather, and I want to ask you the question. Okay. So all the tech businesses out there are some that will succeed. And I suspect they are the ones who've had the biggest funding to allow them to get over those thresholds. And there will be some small ones who will get acquired because they've been very good at what they do. And they've accrued lots and lots of customers. They'll be bought out or replaced, of course. Management companies. So I see a lot of P&Ls and I see a lot of information related to management companies. Management companies can actually make decent money. So if you had a really decent management company, and let's say you had 500 quality properties, so you look at Jane McCall, she's got 300 very nice properties in that destination. You'd expect her to make a lot of money. She's probably put in the same amount as effort as a tech business and still losing money. So where is the money here? To me, it's within the OTA, because we know they make billions because they publish them. And it's in quality management companies, as opposed to the tech provision companies, unless they are enterprise level corporations that have sufficient businesses. So that's why I say there's one last management company left in me.
But isn't it all just a passion project?
Yeah, pretty much it is. I have a passion project. It's called CEOsure.com. That's me just focused on really great companies I know, just to give them more exposure. But you're right. It is a passion project, but it does make money. And you can exit it, can't you, Heather? Because you asked.
Well, yes. Yeah. And that is it. You know, you mentioned Jane, and yes, I'm sure you look at that, the luxury properties in Muskoka, and I know when Justin Bieber comes to stay in Muskoka, he probably stays in one of Jane's properties, as does multiple other celebrities and politicians. But does she make money? Probably not. And on selling that company, when she comes to sell that company, somebody is going to come along and say, even when they've done the due diligence, there is still the Jane's passion, although it won't be there when she's gone, it still lives on. And I firmly believe the company will sell beyond the EBITDA because of the passion that the founder put into it, that lives on in it after they've gone.
I completely agree. There's lots and lots of stuff. I've helped sell a few companies in the last few years, and it's surprising how much money some of them actually make. Some of them are true quality businesses, and they've sold at what is a reasonable price. I would suspect Jane was making money, but it's you capital value at the exit, and it goes back to your hyperlocal presence. If you can become the dominant force in a hyperlocal important destination, you are making money there. You are adding value to somebody else's jigsaw puzzle when they got a private equity business that says, yeah, we could actually add another 3% by better revenue management. We can take out a few members of staff. We can add in insurances. We can do things they haven't done. If we buy it for 4 or 5x as a private equity company when we sell it, well, at least treble our money on the purchase of that. The whole thing's all meshed together, I think. The hyperlocal management companies making money. It's part of the whole ecosystem. It makes money because it's a booking. If you can take money out of the booking, you make money. It's very hard to tech businesses to take money out of a booking because it is perceived being greedy. So, yeah, very interesting. But times haven't changed that much.
They haven't. I mean, you talk about AI coming in and fragmenting as everything else has done in this business over the decades is just fragmented. And I don't see that changing anytime soon, regardless of how much consolidation goes on and how big these companies grow. There will still be the breakouts and the fragments that will grow up in different areas and do different things, perhaps even better.
You live in Canada, of course, so you speak the Queen's English, and they speak a variation of it in the United States, of course. But Europe, 27 different countries, and the United Kingdom, other countries out there as well. That's always been a massive challenge for all these businesses. How do you start a business in Italy? So would you want to start a business in Italy? How do you sell technology to some of these countries? Because how can you sell to France unless you're French? Somebody please tell me that. Anybody who's figured it out. That's part of the fragmentation. It's not a multilingual world, of course, which is why big companies target the United States first, because it's the biggest single market with the biggest single language, and they all do the same thing, in theory anyway. And much more management on the ground. Did you do management on the ground in your business, or was it subcontracted cleaning of operations?
Oh my gosh, Richard, we had 100. I remember one time we had 180 properties and 180 different cleaning teams, and the majority of them were managed by their owners because because our properties were so far away from where we were. We knew their cleaning teams, but the owners found them. And I guess when I look back, we weren't actually hyperlocal, although we did know every owner by name.
Yeah. It's interesting. That's the only thing that is currently missing, I think. You can have a human who can relate to an owner, who can have the right characteristics, can have the right information, talk authentically and authoritatively about everything within the business. But actually, when it comes to operations, you still need somebody to clean places and do maintenance on places. And the day that a robot arrives that can do that, we're going to be in a whole new dimension, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can you answer a question for me? Because I think this is a very much North American approach to things. Is that large companies, and Vercasa wasn't the first one. There's been others in the past and rolled out and failed miserably. Why does it happen when there is a significant amount of intelligence that shows that this will fail? Is this because of expectations on take rates, or is it implementation of large volumes of middle management staff? What is it? Because it confuses me how you can fail so spectacularly.
I honestly don't know. I've seen this happen on a much more localized level, and looking at much smaller companies, because I don't have any experience of these large centralized companies. But on a local level, it comes down to standards and how you set those standards and how you follow up with those standards and ensure that they're met, and develop rubrics that are followed slavishly, which is not going to happen.
But surely, as I've been on the wrong side of commenting on investors in the past and found myself in a very embarrassed position. So I've got to be careful what I say. Investors in these businesses clearly can't ask the right questions. And I'm reflecting on North American hyperscale companies. Don't get me wrong, I worked for Stay Alfred. I understood what they were doing eventually, and that was hyperscale. It was the same with Sonda. It was hyperscaling. It was the same with Lyric. Everybody had to get the highest properties as quickly as possible, and it didn't really matter what else you were doing, as long as you got the properties. You can worry about the rest later because you're going to raise another 100 million. So I think those days have actually gone. I don't think we're going to see those days again, unfortunately. There's still this, if you look at science colleges, if you look at travel chats, you look at the big companies in the UK base, they're much more financially attuned, I think, to actually how you create a large scale company in terms of possibly staff and financial management and where you invest your money to make sure you get the best returns. And why has the UK got 17,000? I don't know, I mean, Graham's got 35,000 or something. Waze has probably got 20,000. Why have you got these big companies here as opposed to the US? Is it because they're all hyperlocal on a national scale?
I think that's it. They've nailed it on that one. It is you understand what hyperlocal is.
Yeah, they was hyperlocal. Years ago, we've seen other companies in the past. I think Interhome has been quoted many years ago as saying, we did a roll-up and we centralized everything, and then we lost all our business. So we had to go and open all those offices all over again. It's how we got on customers. That's how we got our rent. We were in bars, we were in restaurants, we had local conversation, did local marketing. We understood it. So I don't see how you get away with that unless you are a global business with a global power brand that everybody wants to work with. And cleaning companies will give you preferred status and things. Cleaning companies make lots of money now.
They do make lots of money. And I think it all comes down. We're getting close to time now, and I'm very conscious of that because this is a conversation that could go on into part 2, because once we get down into cleaning and maintenance, this is where the power lies. If you get that piece right. And you have...
How much is being charged now by cleaners?
Up in our area now, they're going $50 to $70 an hour.
Oh, my word. Really?
Canadian, that is 50 to 70 Canadian. But it's still...
Okay. It's still a lot of money, really, per hour. It begs the question, rolling up cleaning companies doesn't sound like a bad idea, except it's like mushrooms. As soon as you close one cleaning company, another one will appear.
And then it just comes down to that basic element, that the person who is carrying out that role and how they're trained. Are they passionate about what they do? And you just ask a cleaner, are you passionate about cleaning? It's not quite the same as being passionate about hospitality. Or is it? Because we always taught our cleaners that you are in the hospitality business. You're not in the cleaning business.
You can put them in the money-making business, because there used to be, I think, Acorn, years ago, there used to be a company in France called Square Bread. And they had lovely properties in French destinations, rural destinations generally, I believe. And they gave a cleaning company that territory exclusively, and they shared the booking income with them as well. Cleaning income, a share of the booking income, and they gave them all the branding and helped them with their own local marketing and everything else. And it was very successful because this was a shared environment where everybody succeeded. Everybody did a good job. Everybody won. Everybody left the party blue. And I haven't seen that re-implemented anywhere, really. And I still think it's a lovely model to actually make sure cleaners get good benefits from this.
Maybe that's a model we explore in part 2, Richard, because we won't leave it 11 years again before we have this discussion.
Yeah.
We've got to wrap it up now because we're coming up to the top of the hour, and I do try and keep it under an hour.
Well, that's fair. And if I got another management company in you, I'll send you the details, okay? You can vet my completely mad idea, okay?
I think you're nuts, but there you are. You've got a lot of experience to take ahead. Richard, it's been an absolute pleasure, as ever. I love talking to you. We will meet again at a conference somewhere.
It's great to see you again this year as well, Heather. You need to keep coming back to your homeland. Don't leave it too long. And maybe I'll see you. Are you doing VRMA or any of these sorts of things?
Not sure yet. Not sure.
Okay. If you do,
Cutting back a bit.
Okay. Enjoy. Keep on the AI ambassador stuff as well. Really.
I will. Yes, indeed.
Okay.
When I spoke to Richard about doing this podcast a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about how long collectively we'd both been in this industry, he said, we could sit down and have that sort of chat like the two old men in the balcony in the Muppets, Statler and Waldorf. And I thought, oh, gosh, I can't really remember that. So I went and had a look, and I thought, no, that is definitely not what we look like or what that we do. But then after that conversation, and I looked back on it and I thought, well, maybe, were we grumpy? Maybe not. Maybe not. I don't think we were that grumpy. I think both of us are still as passionate about this industry as we were when we first entered it. Maybe me a little less so when it comes to property management. I'm not about to start another property management company, but I sure am interested in what would happen if Richard did. And I think we should watch this space on that one. So that was fantastic. Richard, thank you so much for joining me. We will connect again soon. So that's it for another week of the Vacation Rental Success podcast. Wasn't totally AI this week, but it certainly touched on it. And I'm probably going to tell you a little bit more over the next few weeks about some of the things that I'm doing with AI, just like that system that I created this morning to delve into every one of my 600 plus episodes and find those great stories that people have told me and share them once again. So watch for that too. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Connect with me anyway. If you've got a question to ask about anything, if you just want to connect, then you can do so at heather@vacationrentalformula.com, or you can, as I say, connect on LinkedIn. That's where I hang out mostly. Until next week, thank you, as ever, for dropping in, and I'll see you soon. It's been a pleasure as ever being with you. If there's anything you'd like to comment on, then join the conversation on the show notes for the episode at vacationrentalformula.com. We'd love to hear from you, and I look forward to being with you again next week.